Welcome, everyone. I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your location in the world. I'm Eve Fabros, one of the online marketing managers with Brad Sugar's Profit Masters. We have people attending from all over the world for today's webinar entitled Starting Your Own Business. Brad has used these same strategies to build the businesses he's always wanted, and now you will learn these same strategies today. Please have a pen and paper ready to take notes. Now, without further delay, I'd like to pass you on to our host and the world's #1 business coach, Brad Sugars.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to our webinar for today, learning about getting into business for yourself. If I take a look, we've got quite a few from Africa on the call today, which is quite phenomenal, and all across the United States, Canada, good to see well represented. Ireland's represented, the UK fairly well represented, even a couple in Australia. You guys must be up, I don't know if it's really late or really early, but here in Vegas it's a beautiful morning, and we're going to talk about getting into business for yourself. So we've only got about 57 minutes here together today, and want to make sure you get plenty of information. So get your pen and paper ready. Once you've tweeted or Facebook that you're on the webinar, please make sure you turn them off and get really focused so we can learn a whole bunch. You know, getting into business for yourself is, well, it's something that I think is one of the best things, the best decision you make. But how do you start? How do you sign that deal? How do you shake that hand and say, yep, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy this business or start this business or do that from scratch? You know, that's where you've got to go from. So I'm not sure why you're here, but I imagine it's one of these reasons that you're looking to start your own business, you're looking to buy your own business, or maybe you're already in business and you want to get some more tips on areas you should be focused in on. Either way, getting into business for yourself is one of the best decisions you can make. And whether you go into business, starting a brand new business, buying an existing business, buying a franchise business, whatever methodology, obviously we've got a lot of things to learn to be successful. You know, one of the hardest parts about being success in business is not the actual workload. The workload itself is actually generally fairly easy. You know, it's a lot of hours, of course. Don't expect to start a business and work only a few hours, but the work isn't any harder being the boss than it is being an employee. It's the learning that takes the time. It's the stress that takes the time. It's the emotional intelligence. You know, writing a check when you, and signing for a check when you're in someone else's business and it's their money is entirely different to when it's your business and you've got to sign the check and it's your money. So, you know, wherever you're at, however you want to get into business, we're going to take a look at that today. Just a little bit more of my background. You know, I've now owned over 50 different businesses. I've been in all sorts of different companies, everything from restaurants to magazine publishing to musical production to motorhomes and RVs. You know, I've been involved in so many different types of things. It's not funny. Dog food business, you know, all of these different things. But most of what I see is that, you know, I go and buy broken companies and I fix them, but I see a lot more than that, but through our business coaching business, through ActionCOACH. And, you know, in coaching those businesses all around the world, I travel a lot, I do a lot of seminars, and I love seeing how people actually get great success being in business for themselves once they learn what they should be doing. Problem was that doing those early seminars, I was away from my family all the whole time. I always say, you don't pay me a lot of money to deliver a seminar. You pay me a lot of money to travel here, stay in a hotel, and not see my family. You know, that's what it's all about. But, you know, I decided back in 2009 to start doing webinars, and it allows me to teach from here and allows you to be wherever you are and sitting in front of your computer, hey, presto, you get the ability to watch the webinar and do the learning. That's why I use webinars a lot, and that's why at the end of our session today, I'm going to offer you a chance to get on more webinars with me, and if you want to get on with those webinars with me and learn a whole bunch more about how to succeed in business, fantastic. We can be together and do that over the next 10, 11 days, and, you know, we can learn forever. But how do you succeed at buying or starting your own business? You know, buying a business, starting a business, which one should you do? Should you, you know, how is the best methodology to do that? And, of course, there's so much to learn. We've got an hour together today to get into at least the majority of what we've got. So let's go and start the debate. Where should you start? As an employee, an entrepreneur, where does that all come from? Now, by the way, during today's session, I am going to do a few polls. The first one here is just why do you want to be in business for yourself? And whether you're already in business for yourself or whether you're wanting to start a business, let me know what your thinking is. This way I can tailor the rest of the event to make sure I know exactly I'm speaking to the things you want to learn, not just what is wanted to be learned by everybody. You know, when you do the debate of being an employee versus an entrepreneur, a lot of people they struggle with making the leap. They struggle with that first step. And it's that first step that is always going to be the hardest one, because you've actually got to make an identity shift. You've got to move from being an employee to an employer. And that big debate is something that goes on in people's heads forever. I've still got about 20% of you to vote, so if you could finally click on those votes, and that way I can close down the poll. I only leave them open for about 30 seconds most times. This first one I'll leave open for 60 seconds just so that we can get everybody voted in there, if you can click on that final votes. So when we go to look at making that leap of leaping from an employee to an employer, what is it that we have to take into consideration? Because you've got to make a decision to do that. You've got to take a look at it. So just to take a look for most of you, you know, the biggest ideas is, you know, you're just ready to take that next step. So that's fantastic. Excellent to see. So when we go and take a look at this decision of becoming it, too many people get stuck on paycheckitis, where they need to live month to month. When you go into business for yourself, obviously it's not doing that. It's the ongoing revenue of the business that we're looking for. So which one's safer? Is a business with ongoing customer base safer than a business than a job? Or, you know, and this is one of the big questions that people have. And so, you know, it's a challenge for people to get through that mindset. There's this whole debate of, you know, do I go with the long-term stuff or the short-term stuff? Where do I fit into this whole thing? Business ownership is about creating freedom, and the job is about creating security. So where you fit on that debate is going to determine where, you know, how you make that decision. And too many times I see people make a decision based on security rather than based on freedom, and they stay in a job for the rest of their life and never get to that point of abundance. And so, you know, where you make that decision? Well, you know, if you have enough knowledge, starting or buying your own business is actually far less risky than having a job. But it's the knowledge factor that is generally the big key behind all this sort of stuff. The glass ceiling in your own business is only limited by your own thinking. You know, it's funny, though, that they'll start a business where they've worked for a company, and maybe they've run a company that does $100 million a year, and then they go and start their own business and they plan on making like $100,000 a year. I mean, why would you plan a small business if you know that if you have the skill set to run a large business? It doesn't make much sense for me, but you've got to get your thinking to there. So I really want to drive it home that if you know what you're doing, the fear and the risk move away. If you do a proper plan, and it's like you go and build a house. You wouldn't build a house without doing a business plan, without doing a house plan. You wouldn't do it without having engineers and architects and plumbers and electricians and all of these people that are specialists and experts helping you put together the plan. But the crazy thing is that people will go and do a business and they'll start it up without a plan, without any expert advice, without any help, without any learning. And that doesn't make sense. Just because you're a good hairdresser, it doesn't make you good at running the business of hairdressing. Just because you're a good accountant doesn't make you good at selling accounting services and running a team of accountants. You know, there's an entirely different set of skills, but it's the knowledge base that has that removes it. Why does the fear kick in? Well, if this is the income you get from your job, a business's income looks different to that. It starts out at zero. You know, you've got to build it up to the same point as your old job. The fear happens in this first little part. You know, what's going to happen? And here's my point. If you know what you're doing, that first little point is minimized. If you know what you're doing, you can actually reduce the time frame on that first little point when you start a business or when you buy a business. So if we take a look at it from a job point of view, mortgages are here, taxes are third, credit cards, cars, living expenses, they're all, you know, being taken out. What's the difference when you have your own business? Well, you've still got to pay your mortgage, of course, but your taxes are paid from the business perspective after you've looked at whether you've made a profit. So your expenses are taken out beforehand. So your business provides a car. You know, you've got to, of course, see your accountant on all of these tax matters because every jurisdiction is different and we're all around the world here today. But the simple reality in my mind is that if you understand being in business, it gives you all of the advantages. So we've got to take advantage of the simple systems that are there. How does the security? Well, I personally believe that, like for me in my business, just with ActionCOACH, forget my other companies, but just with ActionCOACH, I literally have more than 1,000 franchised offices around the world. So I have 1,000 customers that all of them have between 10 and 1,000 customers. Which one's more secure, having one boss or having all of that? That's a simple debate, but you've got to get to it. So why not? Why do people not go into business for themselves? Well, fear we've touched on enough, I think. What's easier to do, to go and start something new or to say no and stay with what you've already got? Of course, it's easier to stay with what you've got. It's better the devil you know is a simple reality for people. But, it's crazy, but the majority of people who start their own business, they have to wait until they get fired before they actually get up the gumption to go and do it. It blows my mind that they've always wanted to, and yet it's not until they're fired and can't get another job or won't get another job that they actually do go into business for themselves. The biggest reason why people don't is the lack of knowledge. They're just, all of the fear and all the perception of risk and all of these things come from that lack of knowledge. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to make sales, you know how to do marketing, you know how to hire and recruit people, if you know these aspects, you can run a great business. Spouts aside, what do I mean by that? Well, my wife doesn't want me to. Oh, no, my husband thinks it's risky. Or, all of these different reasons why your husband, wife, even parents or, other family members can talk people out of going into business. Oh, but business is risky. Of course it's risky, but so is driving your car. It doesn't mean you stop driving your car. Going into business is a definite thing. The perception of risk, obviously, we go back to it. So why do people go into business for themselves? Well, Danko and Stanley said it best. When they did a study of 4,000 millionaires across the United States, 2/3 of those people were from the people that are self-employed, the people that have their own business. They are millionaires. Because here's what you've got to remember about a business. Not only are you building an income stream, but you're building an asset too. The business itself is worth something. The value of the asset, it blows my mind that people don't really understand. You get double the money when you own your own business. Not only do you get the money of the cash flow, but you get the money of the asset value as well. So you make twice the money when you run a business that you do when you have a job because you get paid twice. But even more than that, if you sell a business, usually you sell it for several times profit. So you actually make more than just twice the money when you're running a business. And sometimes your business can even buy you assets, like it might buy you the building that you're running in, or it might buy you the trucks. Or I remember one of my businesses had bought us the photocopier machines that we leased out into universities and stuff. All of these assets that get purchased by the business, so you're getting paid 3 times. It's too crazy for people to not do this, but you've got to know why. Sharon Lecter and Robert Kiyosaki wrote a great book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it showed that if your money comes in and goes straight out to expenses, is poor. If your money comes in and goes out to paying off your borrowings, you're a middle class. But if your money goes into assets, it creates wealth. So what is business if not an asset? So you make money, you put it back into your business, you grow the business, it creates more of an asset, and hey presto, you end up wealthy because of doing that. There is no, it's pretty simple when we think about it from this perspective, but most people don't think about this sort of stuff. Now, for me, I look at the levels of growth that we go through. My book, Billionaire in Training, goes into a lot of detail. If you want to buy that, just jump on Amazon.com or ActionCOACH.com and you can order those there. But we start out as an employee, and what's our job? Our job as an employee is to do enough jobs to learn enough to get into business for ourselves. So in reality, as an employee, you're an apprentice business owner. So what apprenticeships do you want to take? Do you want to go and learn some sales? Do you want to go and learn some marketing, some finance, some accounting, some legal, some purchasing, some contract negotiations? All the different aspects of running your own business. You want to have learned as much of them as possible whilst working for someone else. Where is it going to cost you more to learn this stuff? While working for yourself or while working for someone else? If someone else is willing to pay to train you for things, then great, do that. But you don't want to be an employee for more than 10 years in your life. 5 to 10 years is about the ideal time frame to go and learn enough to go and start doing things on your own. Learning sales, learning marketing, learning all of the aspects of running a business that will help you succeed when you start your own show. That's really what we should be looking for. So then as we graduate from employee to self-employed, this is where it's just you, where you've started a business that's just you, or you've bought a business where it's just you running the business. At the self-employed level, there is a lot to learn. There's so many different aspects of not only do we have to learn the tactics or the strategies of running a business, we have to learn the skills of doing it, but also we have to get the psychology right. Most people that fail at self-employed is because they never, ever got away from an employee's mentality. The employee wants people to tell them what to do. The employee's waiting for people to tell them what to do. The employee's going for safety, security, all of that. When you get to self-employed, your mindset is entirely different. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be willing to take some risks. You have to be willing to go and do the things that actually make a business succeed. The self-employed person actually will get off their backside and go and find a way, whereas the employee will wait. And if you don't shift mindset, if your mindset doesn't move from employee to self-employed, it's almost a never, ever succeeding factor. You just can't succeed at self-employed with that. You know, that's a very big part of what happens. A lot of people think it's just the skills. No, it's the psychology of a self-employed person. I've watched some people at self-employed and their business isn't doing very well, and yet they'll still go and tidy the desk or go and fix the shelves and stuff instead of getting on the phone to try and make a sale, instead of going out and knocking on doors, instead of, you know, it's crazy that they still live in that employee mentality. Again, skills have got to be learned at self-employed. Again, psychology's got to be there. And also the tactics and strategies of running a business and how you actually do that stuff. So it's the learning that's probably some of the toughest parts. If we move from self-employed to manager, now we become an employer, not an employee. Again, there's mindset shifts. Again, there's skills you've got to learn from management, leadership, and delegation, and planning, and cash flow management, and recruiting, and induction skills. All of these skills that we have to learn. See, what kills most businesses is the fact that they just have to, you know, they don't have enough cash aside to be able to learn all these things. So again, if you can learn them as an employee, fantastic. If you can learn them in school or in college or from me or from my books or from one of my coaches or from other trainers and teachers, wherever you need to learn it, you've got to learn this information. What's the psychological difference from manager? Well, see, at self-employed, all of the money that comes into the company is kind of yours, you know. But at manager level, you've got to now start drawing a wage from the business. At manager level, you've now got to start separating you and the business, that you draw a salary. You've got to start having an organization chart, people having job descriptions, and all of these types of things that have to happen at that level. Employing people is a different psychology as well. Now you've got to go from being just you that you're in charge of to being in charge of a group of people that have to get a job done. All of these aspects are great learning capabilities that we have to go through to become great business owners, to become great to be entrepreneurs, to move up the ladder of billionaire training. Now, ultimately, our job is to get it to where we're the owner of the business. Now, what does that mean? Well, my definition, you might like to write it down. My definition of a business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without me. If I have to be there, then it's not really a business, it's a job, okay? And buying myself a job is not the goal. Now, it takes somewhere from 0 to 10 years, usually about 7 years, for someone to get a business that works without them. If you've been running it for a while, then obviously it'll take a little less time to get it to work without you once you know what you're doing. And that's what my coaches do every day with business owners, show them how to get it to work without them. But if to get it to that point, to be the owner, again, you've got to move from taking a wage to just taking profits. You've got to move psychologically from, I need to be at the office every day, or I need to go into my shop or restaurant or factory every day, to now someone else runs it. I've handed over the keys. I've handed over the reins. I've got to trust these other people. There's a psychology. There's a study. There's all of these things. You've got to move from being the president of the company to the chair of the board. You know, you've got to step back. You've got to get a hobby in most cases to actually take your time up. Stepping back from your own business, people are like, but it's my baby. I don't want to leave. You know, obviously, it's not your baby. It's a business. It's not a human being. It's an asset that is available for sale to anyone at the right purchase price. Let's be real about that sort of stuff. Now, obviously, from owner, that means we've got the business running without us. We want to go up to the investor level. We're not going to spend much time on that today. I teach that in other webinars. And then ultimately the entrepreneur level, where we're selling businesses, we're taking companies public, we're, you know, doing investment deals, that, you know, all that different level of stuff that we get to. Our main goal today is to look at the employee self-employed level. How do we do that? How do we actually jump from one step to the next? Remember, this whole bottom level is about income, and this whole top level is about investment. Why do we want to make a lot of income? So that we've got more money to invest. It's as simple as that. And once we've invested enough money, we're retired. We don't ever have to work again. But also we can get our business to a stage where even at this owner level, if the business works without us, then obviously, we're at that point. Let me just launch another poll here for you. If you can take it, I only want to keep it open 30 seconds, so if you can just punch that in straight away. What level of the ladder are you at this point in time? At the employee, self-employed, manager, owner, where are you at this point in time in your business's growth or your growth even personally as an entrepreneur or a billionaire in training, as we call it? So here I am, I'm growing my business. Here I am, I'm starting out. I've got the idea for a business. I know what I want to do. I've got that sort of strategy in my mind. Still got about 20% of you to vote. And what makes me jump over that line? What makes me move through the hurdle? How do I actually make that decision to do that type of thing? So if I take a look here today, we've got a lot of self-employed employees on the call today. A few of you up at entrepreneur and owner and manager level, which is fantastic, but mostly at the self-employed and employee level, which is great. So how do we actually make that first leap? Well, let's take a look at how money is made before we make a decision. So if you're deciding what business to go into, I think it's really important that you understand where money is made so that you can actually make a good decision of what type of business to get into. If we go back to the turn of the last century, 1900, you're talking about the agrarian age of where money was made. If you own the most land, you made the most money. Kings and queens commanded armies to keep control of the land because land is what made money. You were growing crops and raising cattle and so on that's how you made money. The industrial age came along from the 20s through to sort of the 80s, and we've almost dipped back into the industrial age with the coming online of China and India and Brazil and Argentina and all of these different markets around the world with massive populations that are moving from the agrarian age to the industrial age. But in the industrial age, you made the most money if you had the biggest factory. It was oil, it was steel, it was production. That's what made the most money. England won the agrarian age. They had the most land around the world with the entire Commonwealth. America won the first half of the industrial age. Japan won the second half. If you take a look at it. We then moved in on a global basis to the information age, where we're sitting down saying, okay, the most money is made from information. And if you look at businesses today, our largest businesses in the world, a lot of them are based on information products. Your Microsofts, all of your movie businesses, your Apples. Apple, what does it sell? Music. It sells movies. It sells applications. There's so much information being sold, the Facebooks, the Twitters, all of these companies, they're worldwide and they're known because they sell a lot of information. Yes, there's still a lot of industrial age companies making a lot of money out there, especially with the change in the global economies. But we've got to understand where information is aged. Now, this information age, what did it do? It made going into business for yourself very easy. See, in the past, to go into business for yourself, you needed land, and to get land was very tough. You had to either take it from someone or, you had to inherit it or you had to discover it type thing. The industrial age, you had to build up capital to be able to build a factory and so on and so on. And so the information age, though, a computer and a phone, and you're in business. That's basically it, it's as simple as that. You don't even need a desk. You can use the kitchen table. But that's where it is. Now, what is it that we're looking to achieve in business? Well, there's several things we have to understand to create a successful business. One of them is leverage. The mathematical formula for leverage is divide to multiply. It's ever more with ever less is probably the first definition I ever learned of leverage. And what we're trying to do here, Henry Ford was one of the first ones to discover this, with the production line, divided the production up and multiplied the end result. Ray Kroc with McDonald's, with franchising, was one of the first to really discover how to franchise and develop real leverage through, dividing the business of McDonald's up into small units and therefore multiplying the end result. My definition of leverage that I teach is do the work once and get paid long-term or forever. Now, if you are the boss of the business, do you want to get into a business where you get customers once and they come back forever? Do you want to be in a business where you get them once and they never come back? That's an important aspect of it. Understanding leverage is something that we have to look at. If we don't use leverage to get into a business, so whatever business you start, if it doesn't have leverage built in from the very beginning, if it doesn't have, the relationships that build you long-term money, if you can't get strategic partners who keep sending you business, if you can't get, all of these different aspects for it that you look for. Leverage is about getting paid long-term, and that's the difference between employees' work and owners' work. So when you're starting your own business, some of the work you're going to do is going to be employees' work. There's no two ways about it. So if I stay with the hairdresser example, the hairdresser is going to have to cut some hair, but they've also got to do owners' work, business planning, strategies. They've also got to do marketing and sales, which is long-term payback because you get a customer once it comes back long-term. They've also got to do systemization. They've also got to do, all of that owner's work that pays you back long-term. Now, here's the thing. If you do owner's work during the day when you start a new business, you're generally not going to make a lot of money because you're not doing the hairdressing or the cutting hair, if we stay with that example. You've got to do both. So oftentimes you'll find business owners working weekends and nights to do the owner's work of systems and planning and all of that sort of stuff, and working days to actually just make the money. It's what pays the bills is the work you do during the day. It's the work you do at night and weekends that makes you rich. So you've got to understand that there will be more work to be done than can be done during the day. That's a very big part of it. So why are you on this webinar today? Real simple. If you learn knowledge one time, you read a book one time, you can use the information forever. I always like to think of business ultimately as pure leverage, that if I build a business once, and it might take me 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but if I build the business once, it can pay me back forever. Ever and ever. I started ActionCOACH as a business 20 years ago. These days I'm the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week guy. In fact, not even 4 hours many weeks. But, the business runs so I don't have to. The business works so I don't have to. But that's the ultimate in leverage, where you build something once that pays you back forever. And that's really what we want to be doing when we're using the whole concept of leverage. The other thing about leverage, or about business, is that you build it, it's yours. Every part of the work you do is yours. And that's why I find that people with their own business, they seem to work harder and longer because they know it's theirs. They know it's not going to anyone else. One other point about going into business that has to be touched on is that if you've got massive plans and goals, you've got big dreams in your life, then you have to have the ability to go and provide for those. And a lot of the times you won't do that with a job. You've got to build a business to be able to do that. I also like the concept of my business as something I can hand on to my family. The asset, the value of it, that ultimately it'll run and the family can own that asset. And so these are some of the reasons why people go into business for themselves. I get to be the boss. It's no longer I have to argue to get the title of vice president. It's now I've actually got the title of president. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to actually think about all of that other stuff. It's there. And I know it's their type thing. That's a very important aspect of, why people go into business for themselves. Challenge. Do you think that going into business yourself is going to be a massive challenge? Yes, it is. But what other thing is there to do? Use all of your skills. Use them all. Be challenged. Be inspired every day. One of the biggest reasons I love being an entrepreneur is the people I get to hang out with, the other entrepreneurs, the other leaders. Entrepreneurs really are great leaders in society. I always teach that if you want to build a society, you've got to build more employers, not more employees. And if you can do that, then society gets more leaders and the whole thing changes. This is the point that I need to spend a little bit of time on. In your job or your career, you've usually become very good at the job of the career. So, for instance, you might have become a great carpenter, or you might have become a great furniture builder, or you might have become a great hairdresser, if I stay with that one again. I hope I don't have too many hairdressers on here today that I'm beating up on. You've become really good at the job of it. But to run a business is not about being really good at the job. To run a business is about being a generalist. To run a business is about being good at all aspects. Do you have to know enough about IT to run a business? Yeah, you do, because if you're going to hire someone to do IT, you have to know enough to be able to ask the right questions to know that they're good at IT. You can't just hire anyone if you don't know enough about it. Like I've got people say, I'm no good at marketing, Brad. I need to hire a marketing person. I said, well, great. If you're no good at it, how will you know a good marketing person when you hire them? You've got to get at least good enough to be able to decide if you're hiring the right person or not. You don't have to be brilliant at every aspect of it, but you have to know enough of it to be able to do that stuff. And it's very important to get to that stage of knowing enough information to be able to hire the right people and run the right areas. Very simple last one here on this. Control. You know, it's why would you go into business other than to be in charge? You know, you want to be in charge. And this is a very important point. Don't go into business for yourself if you don't want to be in charge. If, you know, General Norman Schwarzkopf said it best. He said, when placed in command, take charge. If you're not going to take charge, and by that I mean run the business, not walk it, not go into work when you feel like it, but actually run it. Get up early, go home late, get passionate about this thing. Get it booming so that you can. That's a very important aspect of why we do it. Now, we've got to go on to the next phase of understanding how do you make a business investment. Because whether you're starting your own business or whether you're buying a business, it is an investment. We've got to work out how do we actually get a return on our investments, because we're buying this thing, we're investing into it. So we need a return. And to do that, we've got to start by learning how that actually takes place. There's three types of investments, and let's just quickly compare the three types. Real estate or property investment, business investment, or stocks and shares. Whatever type of investment you're going into, you've got to understand them and why they're good. I love business as an investment for several reasons. But if I was to start with real estate, let's say I had $75,000 to invest, okay? Whether I started my own business or whether I bought an existing business or I bought a franchise, either way. By the way, I recommend franchises for people that if it's your first maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 business, if you haven't owned more than, say, 3 or 4 businesses, I highly recommend franchising because there's so much to learn in business that if you've got, you know, learn the easy parts first. If you can get a chance that someone else has already done the learning for you on the product lineup and the product mix and how to purchase it and all that stuff, makes it a lot easier for the first time, second time business owner to get involved. So let's just ask this question of real estate. What would be your expected return if you put $75,000 in? You'd probably expect a yield, like a rental income of, 7% on the gross value of the property. You'd probably expect a 7 to 11% capital gain each year. That'd be what you'd be looking for on your investment. Usually property has a great capital gain over long periods, but it also has a fairly low cash flow. The cash flow is not a lot of cash. It usually just covers the costs and the mortgage of doing it. There's not usually a massive profitability out of that $75,000. Now, if you took it to the stock market and said, okay, I'm going to put $75,000 into the stock market, what return would you expect? This is a question. It's different for everybody. But again, usually great capital growth in in the stock market over a longer period of time. But again, dividends almost seem to have disappeared in the stock market these days, and therefore there's lower cash flow. So if I took the same money and went into business for myself and said, okay, yes, property has the advantage you can borrow money. Yes, shares has the high liquidity value as its advantage. But if I go into business, what sort of return would I expect for it? Well, business has two great advantages. One is it has great capital growth, and usually it's got great cash flow. If we take that understanding, it's why I highly recommend people getting into business for yourself, because there's great cash flow and great capital growth. If you buy a business, let's say, and I'll get to starting in a minute, but if you buy a business and that business you bought, you double the profits on it over a period of a year or 2 years, you just doubled the value of that business at the very least. Buying a business and doubling its value is very important, but we've got to still take into account all of the different aspects. So this is why business is usually. Now, if we're going to go into business, we say, okay, what types? Manufacturing is one. I can classify wholesale in with manufacturing because it's a similar style of business. Retail is the next, and service is the next style of business. So when we sit down and examine these three, we've got to examine them and say, well, okay, what's the best type of business to start or the best type of business to buy? What are the advantages and disadvantages of them? So if we take that same $75,000 and put it into a manufacturing business, what return would you be expecting? Well, Here's the problem with the manufacturing business. A lot of our money goes into the equipment and the stock. So we've got all this equipment, and then we've got to buy stock, and our margins in manufacturing are usually not massive. Okay, margins in manufacturing are usually fairly tight because there's high competition for it. So, we're sitting there saying, well, okay, what is going to be my return? Now, if we go and do the same in retail, again, retail, we've got to go and put our money into the shop fit. So we've got to have the store looking good. We've got to have our stock on the shelves. So there's most of our money tied up right there and then. What money do we have for marketing? How much do we have for sales and all of these different aspects of it? These are some of the questions you have to ask when you go into it. Now, am I saying manufacturing is bad? Absolutely not. I love manufacturing. I think there's some amazing manufacturing business. Retail. I love retail. I've got some great businesses I've had in the past in retail that have made good money. The challenge is that there's different advantages to each, and you've got to decide which one is right for you. So if I then take a look at a service business and say, what return would you expect? Well, let's examine it. What's your cost of setting up your service business, a computer and a phone? Okay, you've probably already got both of those in your life. So, all right, what have we got to do now? Well, maybe you'll need a desk and those sorts of things. So your cost of setup is far greater. What is your other advantages? Your margins are usually far greater. And you've got high margin on this type of thing. So in looking at getting a return, you obviously, with a service-based business, can start getting great returns because of such high margins and such low overheads. When you've got a lower cost base, this is why I look at it. Someone starting up a lawn mowing business, there's not a lot of cost involved in that. Someone starting up a pool cleaning business, there's not a lot of cost involved in those sorts of things. So we've got to sit down and start saying, where are we going to start? What type of business do we want to get into? Maybe we want to buy one, maybe we want to start it, but we've got to look at where the margins are so that we can get great returns. Now, if I look at buying a business, one of the things that I'm going to always, by the way, I'm just going to launch one more poll for you. What is the goal of your first business? Whether you're already in that first business or whether it is something you're looking to get into, just give me a little bit of understanding. I know your goals may not fit perfectly with what I put in here as a starting point or as some suggestions, but at least pick one of those to give me an idea as to where your goals are at with this business, because we've got to get into, how do we actually look for these things? Well, a lot of you voted straight away. That's fantastic. There's still a few of you left, but that's good. So what is the difference between buying a business when you look at startup, buying, and franchising? Let's take an examination of those three things while you're filling in that poll for me. So why would I start a business? Well, usually startup businesses, we don't have much capital, we don't have much real money, so we've got to start a business and build it by bootstrapping. We've got to use the money we make to grow the business as we go. Excellent. Let me just close out that poll, get the last one or two of you into vote. Fantastic. Okay, real wealth is what most of you are looking to create. Fantastic. Okay. So let me go back. Before I get to my top buying rules, why would you start, why would you buy, and why would you buy into a franchise? So the starting is usually you want to bootstrap your capital on the way through because you can't raise capital, you've got you don't have equity, you don't have equity in your home to go and borrow against, you haven't saved up a lot of money. So, it's like I have to start it because I'm going to bootstrap my way through. And a lot of the time these businesses will start part-time, a lot of the time they'll start from someone's garage or kitchen table. And that's the sort of thing. I started ActionCOACH literally by doing exactly that. The only borrowings I had was a $15,000 line of credit from the bank, and that was it. It wasn't a massive startup type thing. It was this is what it is. So oftentimes that's the case. Now, whilst starting a business seems the cheapest option, it's the lowest cash option, but it's not the cheapest option. Usually it ends up costing a lot more money starting a business than it does buying a business, purely because it takes you both time and money. It takes you several years to get through the first phase, and then it'll take, and then it'll take, and then it'll take. But also your cash, the reason it takes more cash is that you're having to spend all of your money buying customers at retail prices. You don't have any existing customers. You've got to go out there and do all of your marketing and sales yourself, which takes more time and more money. So sometimes starting a business is a great idea because we got to bootstrap it. Other times, we've got the other. So, and the other reason why we'd start a business is it's something new. Now, if you've got a business that's totally something brand new, one of the biggest challenges with that is that, you've got to convince the market that this is a good product. And I would always say if it's your first business and it's a brand new product or service, it's going to be tough because the reality of it is that you're sitting there with a business. Well, A, you don't know how to run a business. You've never done that before. And B, you've got a brand new product or service. Make it a little easier on yourself the first time round. Sell people something they already know of and they already understand. Sell shoes or sell vitamins or something that people already know they need to buy in your first business. Make it a little easier on yourself. Then we look at buying a business. Now, I'll get to my buying rules in just a moment. But when I sit down and say, what's the advantage of buying a business? Well, it depends. If the business is already set up, the business is, it's doing okay, but it's not run well. They do bad customer service. They got a good product and stuff, but they don't manage it well. They've got a good location, but they don't take care of it. It's dirty. It's not clean. The signage is off. Whatever it might be. And you probably walk into businesses every day that fit this category where, they just don't run the business very well. It's bad management and bad systems and bad employees, and they're just there. Now, if you can buy a business like that, usually you can buy them for a song. I once a year, actually I don't usually run it once a year. It's whenever I get the inclination. I run my entrepreneurs training. I just got back from Indonesia running it. But in my entrepreneurs training, I literally spend a day with people on how to actually evaluate businesses. We don't have that time luxury today, but at least I can get you on the starting point. So when I'm buying a business, I have 3 rules that are absolute musts. So there are other rules that I look for. Billionaire in Training discusses some of them in my book. And I've got a webinar which I'm going to do in a few days' time that actually goes into it in a lot more detail. But number one, I've got to look for repeat business. I always want a business that has, once I've got a customer, they can keep coming back and buying from me again and again and again. As long as I give them good service and doing that, I get the customer back over and over again. Second rule is that there's got to be an ability for high growth. Why buy a business if I can't double sales? If there's no, like if I stay with hairdressing, if I was buying a hairdressing salon and it had 8 cutting stations and all 8 of them were already full, it's not worth buying that business because I don't have any room for growth. But if it had only 2 of them full and there were 6 of them empty, then I've got plenty of room for growth, so I can easily do that sort of stuff. Every time that I go after building a business, I have to build a business that has high growth potential or buy a business with high growth potential. And that's not just for, not just for a business that I'm buying. It's for a business that I could start. It's for a business that I could. If I'm starting a business, it's got to have good growth potential. Third one, high margins. Why do I like that? Look, the last thing I want to go into is a business where I've got to compete on price. I don't like businesses where price comparison or price shoppers is the core of the business. It's too hard to compete on price. I want to compete on service. I want to compete on value. I want to compete on a unique product or a unique thing. I don't want to have to go and compete based on prices. It's too hard to compete on price in business. It's too hard. Business is not about revenue. It's about profitability. So if I can't get good margins, then I know it's going to be a tough business. And I don't really want to go into a business that is a tough business. So they're my 3 buying rules. My top 3 startup rules. Number 1, I must know how I'm going to get cost coverage. So if it works out that it's going to be $10,000 a month in costs to get my office and the leases and the phone system and all of that, I've got to know how I'm going to get the cost coverage or break even very quickly. I've got to know where I'm going to get those customers from very quickly. Otherwise, there's no use starting a business. Second, if you haven't written a business plan, I was mentored with a gentleman just the other week. He wanted to go into the coffee business. I said, show me your business plan. He didn't have one. He was going to open a coffee shop within 10 minutes of his house. He'd done no research on whether there was enough coffee drinkers. He'd done no research on how much people spent on coffee. He'd done no research on any of that sort of factor. All of those sorts of things he just hadn't even looked at. And so how do you actually have a business if you don't sit down and write a plan? So learn how to write a business plan, actually write a business plan and get it done. Third, you must have money to buy customers. You must have a marketing budget. Now, if you don't understand buying customers, you can buy my book, Buying Customers, or you can watch any of my webinars on buying customers. But that is a vital aspect to getting success. You must have a marketing budget to start your own business. You must have the ability to get customers. Otherwise, you won't get the cost coverage, and otherwise the business won't succeed. So let's do a quick summary of today's learning before I get into showing you how to put all this stuff into practice. It's an investment. If you don't know what sort of investment you're making and what return you want, even if you're starting a business, you've got to know that, okay, I'm starting this. It's going to cost me $100,000 to get this thing up and running. You've got to work out how much it's going to cost to start it, not just how much it costs to buy a business, but how much starting it will cost. Second one, you've got to learn the sales and marketing. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to know all of these different aspects of it. Learning these things are the most important aspect to it. The learning is the hardest work of all of the work of getting a business success. Then you've got to know. This is safer than a job, but it's 100% commitment. There's no turning back once you're in business for yourself. There's no like, oh, gee, I want to go back and do something different. There's none of that. I've got to get into business for myself. Next point, you are the boss. You've got to take the action. You've got to lead from the front. You've got to do the majority of the work. You will work harder than every employee you've ever had. You've got to be the leader, though. You've got to be the boss. You've got to be the tough one. You've got to be the one that makes the decisions. You've got to be decisive. You've got to be able to, that's you. You've got to be all that. So how do you get it all into practice? Well, you've got to, first of all, make a decision that, I can do this. I can succeed at this. I put this picture of young Bethany Hamilton and Nick Vujicic in here. Nick's a great young man and, phenomenal. He's a kid with all of the disadvantages, no arms, no legs, and yet still kicking butt out there making super success. Bethany Hamilton, here's a girl, lost her arm in a shark attack and still becomes a world champion in surfing. My kids love her. They love that movie Soul Surfer she was in. You've got to make a decision that, I can do this. The moment you make that decision, then you can start getting into it. So how do you actually implement this stuff? What happens? Well, that's why I created a business school. I created a business school. I call it Profit Masters because profit is what we're after. My online business school is to train you and your staff. How do your staff get trained? How do you get trained for yourself? Imagine you could go to business school for $99 a month. That's right, $99 a month to go to business school. Or you can pay $990 one-off and get it for that. But I'm going to give you a guarantee in a moment that makes it totally worthwhile. In fact, I'm going to give you a 200% guarantee in just one moment. So here's my business school. For the next 11 days, I'm going to take you to business school. You can have your employees watch these too if you want. Life success. How do you succeed at life? Getting your goals and dreams in place so that you know what your business has to do. What's the use of having a great business if you don't know what it's to provide for? Business is a vehicle to get you a great life. Billionaire in training. There I'm going to teach you how to actually create real wealth. Then on day 3, I'm going to go into how do you actually buy, build, and sell companies. If you're going to buy a business, I want to spend an hour with you teaching you how to buy them and how to look for the stuff. Then I'm going to teach you how to multiply the profits. Even in your current business now, how to multiply the profits. By the way, if you haven't typed in a question, please type that in now. All of the questions I'm going to get to in about 2 minutes' time, maybe 3 minutes' time. Then I'm going to look at marketing. We're going to look at multiple methodologies of getting real marketing. So if you're going to create a plan for your business, you've got to have a marketing plan. Then the sales side of it. How do you actually convert those leads that we get from marketing into sales? How do you get them coming in, buying from you, all of that different stuff? Imagine a business school that taught all of this, and that's what we're looking for. So you can go over there, bradsugarsprofitmasters.com. In fact, in a moment, I'll give you a thing where you can get the special offer for today. So also in this business school, how to get your customers back more often, how to hire great people, how do you actually do that? Because you're going to have to do it. You've got to learn this stuff. Business school is where it's at. Great leaders is very much a phenomenal part of it. How do you become a great leader so that you can lead those employees? Systems, how do you build the systems in a company? All of these, there are 11 workshops, or 11 that we're going to do over the next 11 days. We'll record them 11 business days. We won't do it on the weekends. But over the next 11 business days, we're going to do these. Every one will be recorded, so if you miss one or your staff misses one, you can go back and play it and watch it over again. But here's the thing. What would it be worth to go to a business school like that? Would it be worth tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars? What costs might it save you going to that business school? How many mistakes will I stop you making just by putting you into this business school for $99 a month? That's right, $99 a month to go to business school. You'd be insane not to go to business school for $99 a month. Or you can pay $9.90 and never have to pay another cent and get it for the rest of your life. Everything I add, all the videos I do, they all go on there. So this is the deal. We do it at 10 and 4 p.m. Vegas time, exact same time as we're doing today. Again, you get on there for that. In the next 8 minutes, if you make a decision to join us, I'm going to give you a guarantee. So you attend 10. Actually, I added an 11th, so I should update that slide, shouldn't I? I added an 11th webinar. So now you get this guarantee. Attend all 11 webinars over the next 11 days. If you don't love it, if you don't think this business school is worth multiple times what you paid for it, your $990 or your $99 a month, if you don't think it's, I'll give you all of your money back. In fact, I can't be more fair than that. Not only I'll give you your money back, but you get to keep it all. So you get to keep all the learning, plus you get all your money back. Can't be more than that. You know, keep all your notes, keep all of the learning that you do. And here's the best part of that. If you put it on your credit card today, so jump on there, bradsugarsprofitmasters.com, /webinar offer is where you'll get the deal for today, /webinar offer. In fact, in the chat box or in your email, you'll see a link to that. I will give you all of your money back. And if you put it on your credit card, you'll get your money back before your credit card even runs through. How simple is that? You don't have to pay it. So I'm going to give you a bonus of all of these things. So my business school you get, but then you're going to get a lifetime value of all of my training videos, 83 staff training videos to train all of your staff and yourself, of course. They're all on this. Over 12 weeks, you've got one video per day. They're about 10, 15 minutes. They're not long, but every day for 10, 15 minutes, you train your staff and yourself. Every single day you get to do that stuff. Very important, very valuable, worth at least a couple of grand to do that sort of stuff. Then I've got 66 hours of workshops. I've got a whole day in there on how to buy companies, which if you're looking to start a business, phenomenal stuff on there. My Billionaire training, 3-hour seminar. My business is booming, 3-hour seminar. All that. In fact, we just added my buying customers 3-hour seminar just in there the other day. Sales Rich, how to do sales. There's 2 days of that stuff in there. All of the marketing strategies, 83 different strategies for you to get it all taught to you. They're on audio. They're on video. Wealth creation is also a big part of what I've taught in these programs. Please make sure your questions are typed in. I'll be getting them to you in 1 minute. So, also yours for free, more marketing training, ebooks, white papers galore on how to do great marketing for your business, all worth thousands of dollars, this stuff. All of the tools and tactics that you need to actually grow the business. This is part of my business school for you. My Profit Masters Business School is phenomenal for you and your employees for $99 a month. You can't get it anywhere else. It's just not possible. And why can I do it for $99 a month? Because it's online. I don't have to travel to hotels. I don't have to do any of that stuff. All the mentors I interview. I just interviewed another couple of mentors the other day. Well, I think they go live in the next 24 hours. I sit down and I look at it. You'll learn sales and marketing from a whole bunch of mentors. The business school that you're going into is one of the best business schools you'll ever have, and you can do it from the luxury of your own home. You can do it from your office. You can do it wherever you want. There's $25,000 worth of free stuff all in there. How come? Because it's online. Then I'm going to give you hands-on help. I'm actually going to pay one of my business coaches to invest an hour with you. Why would I do that? Because I believe if they can help you make more money, obviously you might want to work with them at some point in time. So I'll pay for them to do 1 full hour with you free of charge. So this is everything you get in my Profit Masters Business School. All of this stuff is yours, all in the business school, but you've got to make the decision in the next 5 minutes. Now, over to your questions. And by the way, Eve does have some bonuses for you, I do believe. So stay tuned. She'll give you the link for those. So let me take a look at the questions that I've got in here. Do you suggest investing in taxing? No. Business is by far the best investment you can get into. There's no way that I can say business is not the best investment. Do you think land and factories are still good today? Absolutely. You know, still the farming business is good today. Still the business of being in manufacturing is good today. I just personally have a look at where do I make the most money? Where are the margins the best? Where I have the lowest amount of capital tied up for it? So, you know, go for it. Go for what you need to do. Do you think the service business is employee? Look, service business is employee-based. And if you're not good with people, you better learn to get good with people. Any type of business, you need to be good with people. Even if it's manufacturing or retail, you've got to be good with people. That's a part of being good in business. Is very, very powerful about being good with people. You've got to be a good leader. You've got to be good with customers. You've got to be good with suppliers, bankers. You know, all these people you've got to be able to build relationships with. I always say repeat business is a matter of results and relationships. So is your client getting the result they wanted, or your customer getting the result they wanted from it, and so on. how do you prioritize? Oh, look, at the end of every day, I write a list of what I need to do the next day, and then I prioritize it. How fast should a business go? Well, a business growth is determined by two things. The speed of growth is determined by the ability to deliver. So do you have the ability to deliver? And second, like that, and that could mean money too, because if you don't have enough money to buy the stock, or money to pay the wages, or money to build the office, or money to, all of those things, then obviously you can't grow fast. But the flip side, the second thing that determines the speed of growth is the ability to actually get the customers. So how fast can you get that? So you've got to learn to balance the marketing and sales side of it with the delivery side of it. Now, most businesses, they don't struggle with the delivery. They got plenty of delivery capability. They struggle with the sales and marketing, and that's why my business school is so powerful. Jump onto the business school, learn Profit Masters Business School, and once you graduate from that, definitely you'll be in a position to be able to go and take that sort of stuff. Okay, should you have professional help from HR? Look, I think that having HR help is very important in growing a business. Having people that help you get great employees, because you won't build your business, your employees will. Having great HR is a very powerful part of building a phenomenal business. Keep it in mind that the more people you have, the better the employees you have, the better the business you have, because they build the business for you. You don't build it yourself. That's a very exciting part of it. Okay, got time for two more questions. The business. So the business school, yes, your employees can log in any time. There's no limit to how many times you can have employees log in. If you buy the 990, you can have a lifetime supply of this information forever. So if you want the customer service training, you can go in, they can watch the customer service stuff. If you want the sales part, they can go in and watch the sales training. If you want the marketing stuff, they can go in and watch the marketing. If you personally want to do the wealth stuff, you can go and learn all the wealth stuff yourself. So any number of employees can be in there. It's $99 a month for all of your staff to do their training in one place at the Profit Masters Business School. One last question. Okay, would I recommend buying a business or starting a business? Personally, I think buying a business is better, but you've also got to learn how to buy it. You've got to learn this negotiation strategies. How do you finance it? How do you fund it? All of those different aspects. You'll get that in the business school. If you watch the entrepreneurs training part of the business school, that training alone, people pay, I just did it in Indonesia, people pay $10,000 to come to that, but it's yours on $99 a month. Get in there, sign up, join us. Look forward to having you back on my webinar starting tomorrow at the same time. Get excited about tomorrow. Now, if you can't make tomorrow, that's okay. We'll record it. You can jump in the next day, whenever it is that you can jump straight in. They'll be recorded. You'll be there with us. Eve, over to you. I know you've got a link to provide people for a couple of free gifts for everybody. Thanks for joining me on the webinar today, gang. I'm doing it again later today, so please send your friends.
Thank you so much, Brad, for these great strategies on starting your own business. This is Eve Fabros, and I want to thank you all for attending today's webinar. We hope you did learn some brand new strategies from Brad that you can start implementing in your business today. As Brad mentioned, I do have 4 free gifts from him that I will be emailing you within the next 24 to 48 hours. It's actually a content access of gifts to the Profit Masters, just for those who are attending today. And note that you will get the replay for this webinar, so you may rewatch it or share it with your team. And remember to take advantage of the special webinar offer and use the link that I've posted in your chat window and click on it. It's bradsugarsprofitmasters.com/webinar offer. And know that your purchase is 100% guaranteed. We'll know you find this webinar series to be an invaluable investment to you and your business. And if you're not completely satisfied, just request a refund within 48 hours after you've listened to the last webinar in the series. Thank you again for your attendance, and happy holidays, everyone.